don't know about you, but I often find things like intrigue, a web of lies, that sort of thing, quite funny, you know what I mean? Because you know, don't you, that when you see it, you think, no, truly, is that happening? Well, as ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as ever, welcome one and all brand new subscribers. It's been a very difficult week for Meghan Markle. Yes, well, I think, yes, we should all hold thoughts. It's not easy if you're Meghan, you see, because clearly things are going off the rails. Sorry, we haven't done a wave, have we? And welcome one and all brand new subscribers. Lovely to have your company. It's a difficult thing on a more serious note because this is a pivotal time. You would have thought, wouldn't you, that Meghan Markle, given the fact that she's supposedly an entrepreneur, a business, whatever you want to call her, this is a time of year, you know, that you set in place for what might have been the busiest period of the year. That is when you get your stock in place for the Christmas rush, you know, the sort of gifts for Halloween and Guy Fawkes and stuff like that. You need everything ready so that your public can go out and buy it. And what do we have Meghan doing? Telling us about the different scenes of change and how gardens evoke every scenery or season. And you think, that's not selling anything. This, remember, is a woman that Netflix have invested millions of pounds in. Now, from a business perspective, you know, I do admire the fact that this woman, a cable TV actress, was able to convince, all on the back of just simply marrying wealth, money, and a title, that she knew exactly what she was doing. Nobody, you know, either sat down and figured out, well, what does this woman offer us, Netflix? How could we sell a lot of money? You know, how could we make some money? And if you remember, Ted Sarandos, the boss of Netflix, couldn't wait to tell the world that he thought Meghan was an A1 influencer and she could convince us all. Now, recently, as you know, I revealed exactly what went on behind the scenes of that fake secret meeting. You know, the thing what was set up by her communications team, currently headed, of course, by Meredith Main, who, as I also pointed out, is having a sort of taut, frosty relationship with none other than Prince Harry, because he just doesn't want to conform. The trouble, as you know, with Harry is this: he's not a celebrity. He's one that wants to do his own way, whatever he thinks, whatever he says. And if he thinks he's got a better answer or question, or you goad him enough in an interview, which is truly what happened when you think about it with The Guardian, and more importantly, of course, the infamous now BBC interview, where he went off rail and she couldn't control him. This time around, though, Meredith has decided to go down a completely different tack. And this is all about really trying to capitalise on the private meeting that lasted, well, seconds really, if you put it down to sort of business, between His Majesty the King and his youngest son over here last week in the very heart of London. And what was interesting about this, and this is really pivotal to the story, remember, this was nicely timed, all down to the fact that we had this incredible presidential gala celebration, state visit, and Harry and Meghan certainly weren't going to be the focus of that. They decided to walk away. And as I also pointed out, Harry was desperate. You know, how about I come along, you know, show the world that we are a united family. Sadly, another idea went wrong. This headline is definitely out of the copybook of Meghan Markle's new communications team. The team, of course, that gave us, well, the twerking video. What's interesting here is it's basically like the Aretha Franklin song from the early 80s. Do you remember? Who's Zooming who? Well, Zoom, of course, is the new way to keep in touch communication-wise. It's cost effective, doesn't really cost anything, and anybody can do it. And according to this report directly from the House of Sussex, well, apparently King Charles is desperate now to set up a Zoom call alongside Meghan Markle. Two things, right? I mean, just think about this. The security level, if you remember when Meghan wanted to be part of the Megxit strategy talks, they weren't not allowing that simply because they couldn't trust her not to leak the conversation. And on the very week that Meghan and her team leaked directly to the tabloid magazine Us Weekly, in fact, about Harry being in tears, His Majesty the King being in tears, and of course the entire works of exactly what happened between the two on the infamous meeting, truly, Meredith is becoming slightly desperate. A call into, of course, the Royal Communications team. They know nothing about this. Zoom is not something that His Majesty the King would use on a private level. He has had meetings via Zoom on a public level. So consequently, how would this happen? But you see, in the world of Harry and Meghan, this was supposed to really explode around the world and point out to the rest of the world that all is good between the families. And now, all thanks to Harry having this infamous meeting, well, he can't wait to clear the air with Meghan. I think he'd like to clear something, but possibly the air isn't the top of the list. Anybody else agree? Of course, for Meredith Mayne being paid an incredibly high salary from the Sussexes right now to make sure that she spins their story into something that is more palatable, well, it's back to the drawing board. Anybody else agree? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.